The darkness of space held many secrets, but none troubled Commander Veltharix more than the ship floating dead ahead. The human vessel drifted without power, its hull scarred by weapons fire. Burns marked the metal skin where energy blasts had struck. Small pieces of debris floated around it like dead leaves in autumn wind. Veltharix stood on the bridge of the Harmonious Inquiry. His 3 eyes focused on the screen before him. His skin changed from calm blue to worried purple. He had studied 17 different alien species in his 40 years of service to the Galactic Collective. He thought he understood how other races built their ships and weapons. But humans were new, dangerous, unknown. How big is it? He asked his second officer. 340 meters, Commander. Small by our standards, Veltharix nodded. The Collective's smallest warships measured over 1 kilometer in length. This human vessel looked like a toy in comparison. Yet 3 weeks ago this same ship had destroyed 6 Collective patrol vessels before disappearing into the dark. The wreckage of those ships still floated in the border zones. Good soldiers had died there. The Collective wanted answers. Bring the human prisoner to the bridge, Veltharix ordered. Minutes passed in silence. The crew worked at their stations, checking sensors and weapons. They were scientists, not soldiers, but everyone felt nervous. The stories about humans had spread through the Collective like wildfire. Some said humans were monsters. Others claimed they were demons who loved violence. Veltharix tried not to believe rumors, but the evidence was hard to ignore. The door opened. 2 guards entered, walking on either side of a human male. His hands were bound in front of him with energy restraints that glowed soft blue. He wore simple gray clothes, not a military uniform. His black hair was cut short and his eyes moved constantly, taking in everything around him. Dr. Hyun Woo, Veltharix said in the human language. He had studied it carefully over the past months. Thank you for joining us. The human said nothing. He stood straight, his face showing no emotion. We are approaching one of your warships, Veltharix continued. It appears abandoned. We need your help to access its systems and understand its technology. If you cooperate, we can discuss improving your living conditions. Hyun-woo finally spoke. His voice was quiet but clear. That ship is the Taewang. You should not go aboard. Why not? Because it is not abandoned. Veltharix felt his skin flicker orange with confusion. Our sensors detect no life signs. The power systems are offline. The ship is clearly dead. Your sensors are wrong, Hyun-woo said. Or perhaps they see only what they are allowed to see. Before Veltharix could respond, his science officer called out, Commander, we are in position. The ship shows no response to our hails. Should we begin boarding procedures? Veltharix looked at the human again. Hyun-woo's face remained calm, but something in his eyes suggested warning. The commander made his decision. Prepare a boarding team. 12 specialists. Full protective gear. Bring cutting tools in case the airlocks are sealed. Commander, Hyun-woo said, please reconsider. You will come with us, Doctor. We need someone who can read human symbols and operate their controls. Hyun-woo closed his eyes briefly, then opened them. As you wish. The boarding team assembled in the airlock. Veltharix counted 12 of the Collective's best scientists and engineers. Researcher Bolkath was there, his mantis-like body folded into the spacesuit designed for his species. Engineer Tholvan checked his equipment with all 4 arms moving in perfect coordination. Each team member carried scanning devices and sample containers. They expected to spend hours examining every system on the human ship. The Harmonious Inquiry moved closer until it touched against the human vessel's hull. Magnetic clamps locked the 2 ships together. The boarding team entered the airlock and waited as the air pumped out. Then the outer door opened. They found themselves looking at a human airlock door. It was closed but not locked. Tholvan examined it with his scanner. No power to this section, he reported. We can open it manually. 2 of the stronger team members pulled the door open. It moved smoothly despite the lack of power. The team entered the human ship. Emergency lights glowed dim red along the ceiling. The corridor stretched ahead into darkness. Everything was quiet except for the sound of the team's breathing in their helmets. The walls were bare metal, painted gray. Human symbols marked doors and panels, but Veltharix could not read them. Dr. Hyun-woo, what does this say? He pointed to symbols on the wall. That way leads to crew quarters. That direction goes to engineering. Forward is the bridge. Any warnings we should know about? Hyun-woo paused. Yes, do not access any computer terminals. Do not open sealed doors. Do not enter any room marked with red symbols. Why not? Because those rooms are dangerous. Your equipment cannot protect you from what is inside. Bolkath made a clicking sound that meant disagreement in his language. We are not children, human. We understand safety protocols. I'm sure you do, Hyunwoo said, but you do not understand human safety protocols. We build our ships differently than you build yours. Veltharix made a decision. We will split into 3 teams. Bolkath take 4 people to the weapons bay. Thulvan take 4 to engineering. I will take the rest to the bridge. We meet back here in 2 hours. Stay in contact at all times. The team separated. Veltharix walked forward with Hyunwoo beside him. 2 guards stayed close to the human, though Veltharix wondered if the guards could actually stop Hyunwoo if he decided to run. Humans were supposed to be very strong compared to most collective species. The corridor was longer than expected. Their footsteps echoed in the empty space. More doors lined both sides, all closed. Some had windows, but the rooms beyond were dark. Veltharix tried to peer into one and saw what looked like sleeping quarters. Beds, lockers, personal items scattered on small desks. Someone had lived there. Someone had called this cold metal box home. How many crew does a ship like this carry? He asked. 240, Hyunwoo answered. Officers, enlisted personnel, and support staff. Where are they now? That is a very good question, Commander. They reached the bridge. The door was sealed, but Thulvan had given Veltharix a cutting tool. He began to work on the lock. Sparks flew as the tool sliced through metal. Finally, the door opened with a hiss of equalizing air pressure. The bridge was larger than Veltharix expected. Stations for navigation, weapons, communications, and command filled the space. Screens covered the walls, all dark. In the center sat a chair raised slightly above the others. The captain's chair. It was empty. Veltharix approached a console and tried to activate it. Nothing happened. He looked at Hyunwoo. Can you make this work? The human stepped forward. His bound hands moved over the controls with practiced ease. The console glowed to life. Symbols appeared on the screen, flowing too fast for Veltharix to read. The main computer is still functional, Hyunwoo said. Emergency power is keeping it alive. But most systems are locked down. I can access the ship's logs if you want. Do it. Hyunwoo's fingers moved across the controls. A new screen appeared, showing text in human language. He began to read aloud, translating as he went. Ship's log, KSNS Taewang, Captain Jiwon commanding. Day 112 of patrol duty. We encountered 6 collective vessels in Sector 7. They demanded our surrender. We refused. Battle was joined. Veltharix felt his skin turn cold gray. Continue. Battle lasted 17 minutes. All 6 enemy vessels destroyed. The Taewang sustained moderate damage. Casualties, 3 wounded, none killed. We are withdrawing to repair facilities. End log. The silence that followed felt heavy. 17 minutes. 6 ships destroyed. 3 humans wounded. The mathematics of it made no sense. The collective vessels had been cruisers, each one larger and more powerful than this human destroyer. From his communicator came Bolkath's voice, high and excited. Commander, you need to see what we found in the weapons bay. These humans. Their weapons are impossible. Veltharix looked at Hyunwoo. The human's expression had not changed, but his eyes held something that might have been sadness. Or perhaps it was pity. Veltharix left the bridge and hurried through the corridors toward the weapons bay. His team followed close behind, with Hyunwoo walking between 2 guards. The human's face remained calm, but he seemed more tense now. His shoulders were tight, and his eyes kept looking at the walls as if he expected something to happen. They found Bolkath standing in front of a massive chamber. The mantis-like researcher was using all 4 of his limbs to gesture at the equipment before him. His body vibrated with excitement, which made his voice shake when he spoke. Commander, look at this. Bolkath pointed at a long metal tube mounted on a rotating platform. This is their primary weapon. At first I thought it was a damaged energy cannon. But it is not an energy weapon at all. It fires solid metal. Veltharix moved closer. The weapon was huge, taking up a large portion of the bay. It was simple in design. Just a long barrel with magnetic coils wrapped around it. No focusing crystals. No plasma chambers. No energy converters. Just metal and magnets. I do not understand, Veltharix said. Kinetic weapons are outdated. We stopped using them thousands of years ago. They are too slow, too inaccurate. That is what I thought too, Bolkath said. His voice dropped lower, becoming serious. But look at these calculations. He held up his scanner showing numbers and equations. This weapon accelerates a tungsten rod to 3% of light speed. Do you understand what that means? Veltherix did the math in his head. His skin turned pale yellow with shock. That is impossible. The power requirements would be enormous. Yes, and yet they built it. I found their ammunition storage. Bolkath moved to a sealed compartment and pointed at it through the window. Thousands of tungsten rods, each one weighing 20 kilograms. When fired at those speeds, each rod carries more kinetic energy than our best plasma cannons, and shields designed to deflect energy will not stop solid matter moving that fast. Veltherix felt his 3 hearts beating faster. How many of these weapons does this ship carry? 2 main railguns, 4 smaller ones for point defense, and that is not all. Bolkath moved to another section of the bay. Look at these, missile pods lined the walls. Each pod held 10 missiles, and there were dozens of pods. The missiles themselves were sleek, painted dark gray with symbols written on their sides in human language. These are not simple missiles, Bolkath explained. Each one has its own computer brain. They can think. They can make decisions. I accessed one of their memory banks and found the programming. These missiles do not just fly toward a target. They hunt, they avoid obstacles. They work together. And some of them, he paused, his body shaking again. Some of them carry antimatter warheads. Antimatter? Veltherix could not believe it. That is illegal under collective law. The danger is too great. Humans are not part of the collective, Hyunwoo said quietly from behind them. They do not follow collective laws. Veltherix turned to look at the human. Your people put antimatter on missiles? Do you understand how unstable that is? One malfunction could destroy your entire ship. We understand perfectly, Hyunwoo replied. Human engineers are very good at their jobs. There has never been an accidental detonation, not once in 40 years of using antimatter weapons. Before Veltherix could respond, his communicator came to life again. This time it was Tholvan, speaking from the engineering section. The 4-armed engineer sounded confused and amazed at the same time. Commander, you must come to engineering. I have found their reactor. It should not work, but it does. It should not produce this much power, but it does. Nothing makes sense down here. Veltherix looked at his team. Everyone returned to the main corridor. We go to engineering together. I want witnesses to whatever we find. They made their way through the ship, going deeper into its interior. The temperature grew warmer as they descended. The air felt heavier, though their suits protected them. They passed through a heavy blast door that had been forced open. Beyond it lay the engineering section. The reactor room was enormous. It dominated the entire lower deck of the ship. In the center stood a cylindrical chamber, 50 meters tall, glowing with contained energy. Pipes and cables ran everywhere, creating a maze of technology. The hum of power vibrated through the floor, even though the reactor was supposed to be in low power mode. Tholvan stood near a control panel, his 4 arms moving across different screens at once. His face showed confusion and respect in equal measure. Commander, this is a fusion reactor, Tholvan said, but not like any fusion reactor I have seen before. They use magnetic bottles to contain the reaction, just like we do. But their magnetic fields are 10 times stronger than ours. And the temperature inside, he checked his readings again. The temperature inside that chamber is 50 million degrees. That is hot enough to melt any containment system, Veltherix said. How is it not destroying itself? I do not know. The materials they use should fail at those temperatures, but somehow they hold, and the power output. Tholvan pulled up more data. This single reactor produces enough energy to power one of our battle stations. This is a small ship, Commander. Our smallest warships need 4 reactors working together to produce this much power. Veltherix approached the reactor slowly. Through the shielded windows, he could see the glow of the fusion reaction. Blue-white light pulsed like a captured star. It was beautiful and terrifying. How is this possible? He asked, speaking to no one in particular. Human engineering philosophy is different from yours, Hyunwoo answered. He had moved closer, despite the guards trying to hold him back. The collective builds elegant machines, efficient, beautiful. Humans build machines that work. We do not care if they are pretty. We care that they do not fail when we need them most. This is more than just different philosophy, Tholvan argued. This is advanced technology hidden behind primitive appearance. No, Hyunwoo shook his head. It is primitive technology pushed to its absolute limit. Humans have used fusion power for 300 years. We have had a very long time to make it better. Every failure taught us something. Every accident showed us what not to do. We learned from our mistakes and we built better machines. Veltherix moved away from the reactor and began exploring the rest of engineering. He found spare parts stored in marked containers. He found tools of every size and shape. He found maintenance logs written by hand, noting every repair and adjustment made to the ship's systems. One wall held photographs. Human crew members smiled at the camera. Some photos showed groups of people together, arms around each other. Others showed individuals in front of the reactor or standing at their stations. Someone had written names under each photo in careful handwriting. These were real people, Veltherix said softly. They lived here, worked here. Of course they were real people, Hyunwoo said. What did you expect? Robots? Slaves? I do not know what I expected. Veltherix looked at one photograph more carefully. It showed a young human female with short black hair, wearing an engineering uniform. She was smiling, holding a tool in one hand. Under the photo was written, Specialist Yuna, best reactor tech in the fleet. Where is she now? Veltherix asked. Probably on another ship, Hyunwoo said. Or perhaps she is back home with her family. Human military service is voluntary. People join, serve their time, and then go home to live normal lives. Voluntary? Volkath made a clicking sound of disbelief. You mean humans choose to serve on warships? Yes. Why would anyone choose such a dangerous life? Hyunwoo was quiet for a moment. Then he said, because someone must protect what we love. Because we believe in something greater than ourselves. Because when we join the military, we promise to defend our people, and humans take promises very seriously. Veltherix felt something shift in his understanding. These were not monsters or demons. These were people who had built terrible weapons because they felt they had no choice. They had created ships of war because someone had to stand guard while others slept safely at home. But that made them more dangerous, not less. A mindless monster could be predicted. A thinking being who chose violence as a tool was far more frightening. His communicator buzzed. One of his researchers who had been examining the crew quarters spoke urgently. Commander, I found personal logs. Video recordings made by crew members. You need to hear what they say about their training and their purpose. Veltherix looked around the engineering section one more time. He saw weapons designed to kill from impossible distances. He saw a reactor that should not exist. He saw proof that humans had taken old technology and turned it into something new and deadly. We will review everything, he said. Every log, every recording, every piece of data on this ship. The collective needs to understand what we face. Hyunwoo spoke again, his voice quiet but clear in the silence. You still do not understand. This ship, the Taewang, is a destroyer, one of our smallest warships, we know that. Veltherix said. Do you know how many destroyers humans have built? Veltherix turned to look at the human. How many? 2,400. And that is not counting our cruisers, carriers, or battleships. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Veltherix felt his skin turn dark gray with fear. The research team gathered in what had been the Taewang's briefing room. Veltherix sat at the head of the table, looking at the screens they had set up. His team had spent 6 hours pulling data from the ship's computers. Now they would review it together and try to understand what they had found. Hyunwoo sat at the far end of the table, still in restraints. 2 guards stood behind him, but everyone had stopped paying attention to the human prisoner. They were too focused on the screens. Begin with the battle recordings, Veltherix ordered. One of his analysts touched a control. The screen filled with an image from 3 weeks earlier. The view came from the Taewang's bridge. Veltherix could see the crew at their stations working calmly. In the command chair sat a human female. She wore a dark blue uniform with symbols of rank on the shoulders. Her black hair was pulled back tight. Her face showed no fear, only focus. That is Captain Ji-won, Hyunwoo said. She commands the Taewang. On screen, someone called out a report. Captain, 6 collective vessels approaching. They are powering weapons. They are demanding we surrender. Captain Ji-won's voice was calm and clear. Open a channel. A face appeared on the main screen. A collective officer from a species Veltherix recognized. The officer spoke with authority. Human vessel, you have entered collective space without permission. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. You are outmatched and outgunned. Surrender now and you will be treated fairly. Captain Ji-won smiled, but there was no warmth in it. We decline. This sector is disputed territory. We have as much right to be here as you do. If you want us to leave, you will have to make us. The collective officer looked angry. You face 6 warships with only 1. You cannot win this fight. Perhaps, Captain G1 said. Shall we find out? The channel closed. Captain G1 turned to her crew. Battle stations. All hands prepare for combat. Officer Minho, weapons free. Make every shot count. A human male at the weapons station nodded. Yes, Captain. Railguns charging. Missiles armed. Point defense online. What happened next made Veltherix's blood run cold. The Taewong did not wait for the collective ships to fire first. It attacked immediately, launching a spread of missiles while accelerating straight toward the enemy fleet. The collective ships tried to scatter, but they were too slow. The human missiles moved with terrifying speed and intelligence. Veltherix watched as the missiles split up, each one choosing a different target. The collective ships fired their defensive weapons, trying to shoot down the incoming threats. They managed to destroy a few, but most got through. The missiles did not hit head-on. They maneuvered around the ships looking for weak points and struck at joints where armor was thinnest. Explosions blossomed across space. 2 collective ships lost their engines. A third took a hit to its bridge and went silent. Then the Taewong opened fire with its railguns. The tungsten rods were invisible until they hit. Veltherix saw 1 collective cruiser simply break apart as 3 rounds punched through it from bow to stern. The ship split into pieces, spilling air and debris into the void. Ancestors preserve us, Bolcath whispered. They destroyed that ship in 1 salvo. The battle continued. The remaining collective ships tried to fight back, but they could not hit the human destroyer. The Taewong moved like nothing Veltherix had ever seen. It twisted and turned, accelerating hard in one direction, and then suddenly changing course. The human crew must have been experiencing crushing force from those movements, but they kept fighting. More missiles launched. More railgun rounds fired. One by one, the collective ships died. Some tried to retreat, but the Taewong chased them down. Captain G1 showed no mercy. When a ship tried to surrender, she let it power down and drift. But any ship that kept fighting was destroyed without hesitation. 17 minutes after the battle began, it was over. 6 collective ships were gone. The Taewong had taken some damage. Burns marked its hull where enemy fire had landed. But it was still fighting, still moving, still dangerous. Captain Ji-won's voice came through the recording. Casualty report. 3 wounded, Captain, someone replied. Ensign Taeyang has a broken arm. Technicians Bora and Junho have minor burns. Medical team is treating them now. Good. Begin repairs. Get us back to fighting condition as quickly as possible. There may be more collective ships in the area. The recording ended. The briefing room was silent. Veltherix had watched people die. He had seen his own species' ships destroyed. The mathematics of it was clear. 6 ships lost against 1. The collective had thought humans were weak, unprepared, primitive. That assumption had killed good soldiers. Play the next recording, he said, his voice rough. The analyst brought up a different file. This one came from personal logs kept by crew members. A young human female appeared on screen. She wore a pilot's uniform and sat in what looked like her private quarters. Personal log, Ensign Sora, she said to the camera. Today was my first real combat mission. I've run the simulations 1,000 times, but this was different. This was real. People were trying to kill us, and we had to kill them first. She paused, looking down at her hands. When I joined the military at 18, my parents cried. They were afraid I would die far from home, but they understood. Every human understands. We live in a dangerous universe. There are species out here that would destroy us if they could, so someone has to stand guard. Someone has to be ready to fight. Sora looked back at the camera. The training was hard. They woke us before dawn every day. We ran until our legs gave out. We studied tactics until we dreamed about battle formations. They taught us how to operate every system on the ship. They taught us how to repair damage under fire. They taught us that hesitation kills. She took a breath. By the time I graduated from the academy, I had spent 3 years preparing for war. 3 years learning how to survive when everything goes wrong. And today, all that training saved my life and the lives of my crewmates. We won because we were ready. We won because we have done this 1,000 times before, even if it was only in simulation. The recording showed her standing up. Some people think humans love war. That is not true. We hate war. We hate what it does to us and what it forces us to become. But we are very, very good at it. Because we had to be. Our history is full of conflict. Nation against nation, tribe against tribe. We spent thousands of years fighting each other before we ever reached space. We learned every lesson the hard way, and now those lessons keep us alive against aliens who think we are weak. Ensign Sora smiled sadly at the camera. I hope the collective learns to leave us alone. I hope we can find peace, but if they keep pushing, they will discover something they do not want to know. They will discover what humans can do when we stop holding back. The recording ended. Veltharix looked around the table. Every member of his team looked shaken. They were scientists, not warriors. Violence was foreign to most collective species. Wars were rare, usually resolved through negotiation or economic pressure. But humans had built an entire culture around the idea of military preparedness. There are more logs, his analyst said. Many more. Should I continue? Yes, Veltharix said. I want to see all of it. They watched for hours. They saw crew members talking about their families back home. They saw training exercises where humans pushed themselves to the point of collapse. They saw tactical discussions where officers debated the best ways to destroy enemy ships while taking minimal damage themselves. One recording showed Officer Minho, the weapons specialist, explaining his philosophy. The railgun is a simple weapon, he said. Just magnetism and metal. But simplicity is strength. Energy weapons can fail if their power supply is damaged. Missiles can be jammed or hacked. But a chunk of tungsten flying at 3% of light speed. Nothing stops that except thick armor or getting out of the way. Another recording showed crew members eating together in the mess hall. They laughed and joked like any group of friends. They talked about sports and music and what they would do when they got home. They were not monsters. They were just people doing a difficult job, but then the alarms would sound for a drill and they would transform. Laughter would stop. They would move with practiced precision to their battle stations. In seconds, they became a weapon. Veltharix watched Captain Jiwan in several recordings. She spoke to her crew with respect and care. She knew all their names. She asked about their families. She celebrated their successes and helped them learn from their failures. But when it was time to fight, she became something else. Cold, focused, ruthless. In one tactical meeting, she said something that Veltharix would never forget. Our mission is simple, Captain Jiwan told her officers. We patrol the border. We watch for threats. If someone crosses into our space with hostile intent, we stop them. We give them one chance to leave peacefully. Only one. After that, we do what we were trained to do. We protect our people no matter the cost to ourselves. One of her officers asked, "What if the enemy force is too large? What if we cannot win?" Captain Jiwan's answer was immediate. Then we make them pay such a terrible price for their victory that they think twice before attacking another human ship. We fight until we cannot fight anymore. That is our duty. That is what we promised when we put on these uniforms. The recordings finally ended. The briefing room lights came up. Veltharix was about to respond to Hyunwoo when the lights changed. The dim red emergency lighting suddenly shifted to bright blue. Every screen in the briefing room came alive at once, displaying the same symbol. A simple image of Earth with stars around it. Alarm sounds filled the air. Not the gentle chimes of the harmonious inquiry, but harsh, urgent warning tones from the Taewang itself. What is happening? Bolkath jumped up from his seat. Before anyone could answer, heavy metal doors slammed shut over every exit. The team was trapped in the briefing room. Veltharix ran to the door and tried to force it open. It would not move. The ship is awake, Hyunwoo said calmly. He was still sitting, but his restraints had opened and fallen to the floor. The AI has activated. You have about 30 seconds before the crew arrives. What crew? Veltharix spun around. This ship was abandoned. No, Commander. I told you when we first arrived, this ship was not abandoned. You chose not to believe me. Hyunwoo stood up, rubbing his wrists where the restraints had been. The Taewang was bait. And you took it. Through the walls came the sound of running feet. Lots of feet. Moving fast. Moving with purpose, Veltharix grabbed his communicator. All teams report status. What is your position? Static. Nothing but static. They are jamming our communications, Thulvan said, checking his equipment with all four arms. The entire ship is blocking our signals. The doors. Bolkath pointed. The heavy metal was moving aside, but instead of opening to freedom, armed humans stood on the other side. They wore black armor that covered them from head to toe. Each one carried a weapon. Each one moved with trained precision. "Everyone stay calm," said the lead human. His voice came through a speaker in his helmet. "Put your hands where we can see them. Do not try to run. You will not be harmed if you cooperate." Veltharix slowly raised his hands. His team did the same. They had no choice. They were scientists on a warship, and they were surrounded by trained soldiers. The humans moved into the room with practiced efficiency. They separated the aliens, checking each one for weapons. They were not rough, but they were not gentle either. These were professionals doing a job. "Dr. Hyunwoo," the lead soldier said. "Are you injured?" "No, Lieutenant Daeho, I am fine." Hyunwoo walked past Veltharix toward the door. "They treated me well. They listened to what I told them." "Good. The captain wants a full report. She is on the bridge now." As the humans escorted the research team through the corridors, Veltharix saw how different the ship looked now. The emergency lights were gone, replaced by normal illumination. Computer screens glowed at every station. The air smelled of recycled atmosphere and human sweat. The Taiwan was alive again. They passed through a section where more human soldiers stood guard. Veltharix counted at least 40 armed personnel just in the corridors they walked through. How many more were hidden throughout the ship? "How long have you been here?" he asked Lieutenant Daeho. "We never left, Commander. We have been aboard the entire time, waiting in sections of the ship your sensors could not detect. We have shielded compartments for exactly this purpose." "Why? Why go through this deception?" "Because the captain has a message for your leaders, and she wanted to make sure you understood the message before you delivered it." They reached the bridge. The doors opened to reveal a fully operational command center. Every station was manned. Every screen showed data. And in the command chair sat Captain Ji-won. She looked exactly like she had in the recordings. Her uniform was crisp and clean. Her hair was pulled back tight. Her eyes were sharp and aware. When she saw Veltharix, she stood and walked down to meet him. "Commander Veltharix," she said in his language. Her accent was slight but clear. "Thank you for accepting my invitation aboard the Taiwan." "Invitation?" Veltharix felt anger rising. "You trapped us here." "Yes," Captain Ji-won agreed. "Because you would not have come if I had simply asked. Your people think humans are primitive and weak. They think our ships are outdated. They think we are not a threat. I needed to show you the truth in a way you could not ignore." She gestured to the bridge around them. "You have examined my ship. You have seen our weapons. You have reviewed our training and our tactics. You understand now what we are capable of. That was important. The collective needs to understand what happens if this conflict continues." Veltharix tried to stay calm. "You destroyed 6 patrol ships. You killed hundreds of soldiers." "They fired first," Captain Ji-won said. "We gave them a chance to leave. They chose to fight. We defended ourselves." "By destroying them completely?" "Yes, because anything less would have been a half measure. In war, half measures get people killed. If we had damaged those ships and let them go, they would have repaired and come back stronger. They would have learned our tactics. They would have been better prepared next time. So we made sure there would not be a next time." She walked back to her command chair and sat down. "I do not enjoy killing, Commander. None of my crew does. We are not monsters, but we are soldiers. We do what must be done to protect our people." Veltharix looked around the bridge. Every human was watching him. Every face was serious. These were not the laughing friends he had seen in the recordings. These were warriors ready to fight. "What do you want from us?" he asked. "I want you to take a message back to the collective," Captain Ji-won said. "I want you to tell your leaders what you saw here. Tell them about our weapons. Tell them about our training. Tell them that this ship, the Taewang, is one of 2,400 destroyers in the Korean Space Navy alone. And the Korean Space Navy is only one branch of the human military." She leaned forward. "Tell them that humans do not want war. We want peace. We want to trade and share knowledge with the other species in the galaxy. But if the collective continues to attack our ships and claim our territory, we will respond, and the response will be terrible." Before Veltharix could reply, alarms sounded throughout the ship. A human officer called out from his station. "Captain, sensors detect multiple ships approaching. Configuration matches collective warships. 1 battlecruiser and 4 escorts." Captain Ji-won's expression did not change. "Distance? 200,000 kilometers and closing. They are hailing us and put them through. A face appeared on the main screen. Veltharix recognized Fleet Admiral Kothral, a high-ranking officer in the collective military. The Admiral's face showed surprise when he saw Veltharix standing on the human bridge. "Commander Veltharix, what is your status? Are you held prisoner?" "I am detained, Admiral. The humans have taken control of my research vessel." Admiral Kothral's expression hardened. "Human vessel. This is Fleet Admiral Kothral of the Galactic Collective Navy. You are holding our people against their will. You will release them immediately and surrender your ship. You are outnumbered and outgunned. This is your only warning," Captain Ji-Wan stood. Her voice was quiet but clear. "Admiral, your forces entered this sector without authorization. The Taewang is on legitimate patrol duty. Commander Veltharix and his team boarded my ship without permission. Under human military law, they are trespassers. However, I am willing to release them unharmed if you withdraw your forces." "You are in no position to make demands," the Admiral said. "I have a battlecruiser that outmasses your vessel 10-1. Surrender now or be destroyed." Captain Ji-Wan was quiet for a moment. Then she said one word. "No." The Admiral's face turned dark with anger. "Then you have chosen death. All ships target the human vessel. Fire at will." The communication cut off. Captain Ji-Wan turned to her crew. "Battle stations. All hands to combat positions. Officer Minho, prepare a full weapon spread. Point defense to maximum. Show them what the Taewang can do." Lieutenant Deho moved Veltharix and his team to the side of the bridge away from the active stations. "Stay here and do not move. You are about to witness something your people need to see." Through the main screen, Veltharix watched as the collective fleet approached. The battlecruiser Eternal Unity was massive, its weapons glowing with power. The 4 escort ships spread out in attack formation. Against them stood one small human destroyer. The odds were impossible. The humans could not win this fight, but as Captain Ji-Wan gave her orders and her crew responded with perfect precision, Veltharix began to doubt what he knew about impossible odds. "All weapons locked," Officer Minho reported. "Firing solution confirmed." "Ready on your command, Captain." Captain Ji-Wan watched the approaching ships on her screen. She looked calm, almost peaceful. Then she said, "Fire." The Taewang came alive with violence. Railguns fired in perfect sequence. Missiles launched in waves. Point defense systems tracked incoming fire and destroyed it before it could reach the ship. And through it all, the human crew worked with practiced efficiency, each person knowing exactly what to do. Veltharix watched in horror as the battle unfolded. His people, the collective, had thought they were strong. They had thought their technology was superior. They had thought humans were weak. They were wrong about everything. The Taewang was not just a ship. It was a weapon, and Captain Ji-Wan knew exactly how to use it. The first railgun shots crossed the distance in less than 2 seconds. Veltharix watched the tactical display as 3 tungsten rods, each moving at 3% of light speed, struck the battlecruiser Eternal Unity dead center. The shields that protected collective warships were designed for energy weapons. They could absorb and deflect plasma bolts and laser beams, but solid matter moving that fast simply punched through like paper. The rounds tore through armor, through decks, through equipment and people. One round hit a reactor core and caused a secondary explosion that lit up space like a small sun. "Direct hits on the battlecruiser," Officer Minho reported. His voice was calm, professional. "2 reactors destroyed. They are venting atmosphere from multiple hull breaches. The ship is crippled but still combat capable. Continue firing," Captain Ji-Wan ordered. "Target their weapons arrays. I want them disabled, not destroyed. Let them watch what happens to the escorts." The Taewang pivoted on its axis with speed that should have been impossible. The crew did not even seem bothered by the force of the maneuver. Veltharix realized they must have some kind of internal gravity system that protected them, or perhaps they were just that tough. 40 missiles launched simultaneously, spreading across space in different directions. The collective escort ships tried to intercept them, firing defensive weapons and deploying countermeasures. Some missiles were destroyed, but most adapted. They changed course, moved in unexpected patterns, and worked together like a pack of hunting animals. Veltharix watched in horror as 2 escorts simply vanished. The antimatter warheads detonated, and where there had been ships, there was only expanding energy. No wreckage, no survivors, just empty space where people had been alive moments before. "Escorts Alpha and Beta destroyed," Officer Minho reported. "Escort Gamma is disabled, drifting. Escort Delta is attempting to retreat. Let it go, Captain G1 said. Focus on the battlecruiser. I want Admiral Cothrall alive to deliver my message. More railgun rounds fired. These ones were aimed with surgical precision at the battlecruiser's weapons. Magnetic cannons exploded. Missile pods were torn from their mountings. Within 90 seconds, the Eternal Unity was defenseless. The entire battle had lasted less than 4 minutes. Captain G1 opened a communication channel. Admiral Cothrall's face appeared on screen. He looked shocked, unable to comprehend what had just happened. Behind him, smoke filled the bridge. Crew members rushed to put out fires and treat the wounded. Admiral, Captain G1 said, your weapons are disabled. Your escorts are destroyed or retreating. You have lost this engagement. I could finish you right now, but I choose not to. Do you understand why? The Admiral said nothing. He just stared. I spare you because I want you to live, Captain G1 continued. I want you to go back to your superiors. I want you to tell them exactly what happened here today. Tell them that one human destroyer defeated your fleet. Tell them that we showed restraint when we could have shown annihilation. She leaned forward in her chair. And tell them that if the collective continues to attack human ships, we will not show restraint again. The next time your forces enter our territory with hostile intent, we will respond with every weapon we have. We will not stop until the threat is eliminated completely. Do you understand me, Admiral? Admiral Cothrall finally found his voice. You are monsters. No, Captain G1 said quietly. We are humans. We are people who have fought for survival since the dawn of our species. We have fought nature, fought disease, fought each other, and fought our way to the stars. We learned a long time ago that the universe does not care about fair fights or noble causes. It only respects strength. So we became strong. She stood. We did not want this war, Admiral. Your people started it when you attacked our colonies. You continued it when you destroyed our trade ships. You escalated it when you declared that human space belongs to the collective. We tried diplomacy. We tried negotiation. But you saw our desire for peace as weakness, Gonwell. So now we show you our strength. Not because we enjoy violence, but because it is the only language your leaders seem to understand. We will defend what is ours. We will protect our people. And if that makes us monsters in your eyes, then so be it. Captain G1 gestured to someone off-screen. I am sending repair drones to your ship. They will patch your hull breaches and stabilize your reactors. You will have enough power to limp back to collective space. Take Commander Veltharix and his research team with you. They have information your leaders need to see. Why help us? The Admiral asked. Why not destroy us and be done with it? Because dead men cannot deliver messages. And because even in war we try to remember our humanity. Your crew members are following orders just like mine. They do not deserve to die in the cold of space because their leaders made poor decisions. The communication ended. Captain G1 turned to Lieutenant Deho. Escort Commander Veltharix and his team back to their ship. Make sure they have copies of all the data they collected. And give them this. She held out a data chip. It contains a full tactical analysis of this engagement, along with a message for the Collective High Council. Veltharix was escorted off the Taiwang in silence. His team followed, each one looking shocked and afraid. They had witnessed something that would change the collective's understanding of warfare forever. As they crossed back to the Harmonious Inquiry, Veltharix looked back at the human ship. It floated peacefully in space, showing only minor damage from the battle. Repair drones were already at work fixing even those small problems. The Taiwang would be combat-ready again within hours. One ship. One small destroyer. It had defeated a battlecruiser and 4 escorts with ease. And there were thousands more just like it. Once back on his own ship, Veltharix went straight to his office. He needed to compile a report, but he did not know where to begin. How could he explain what he had seen in a way that his superiors would believe? Dr. Hyunwoo found him there an hour later. The human had returned to his role as prisoner, but Veltharix no longer had guards watching him. There seemed little point. You knew, Veltharix said. You knew all along what would happen. Yes, Hyunwoo admitted. He sat down across from the commander. I am not just a scientist. I am an intelligence officer. My capture was planned. My imprisonment was staged. Everything was designed to get me close to someone like you. Someone who would investigate the Taiwang and learn the truth. Why? Why go through all this? Because war between humans and the collective will cost millions of lives on both sides. Neither of us wants that. But your leaders needed to see evidence they could not ignore. They needed to understand that humans are not weak, that we have weapons and tactics that can defeat any force you send against us. Hyunwoo looked tired. My people have been at war for most of our history. We know what it costs. We know what it does to societies and families. We do not want to fight you, but we will if we must. Captain Jiwon could have destroyed Admiral Kothral's entire fleet. She could have killed everyone and left no witnesses, but she chose mercy because that is what humans do when we can. Your mercy looks like violence from where I sit, Veltharic said bitterly. Yes. And that is the tragedy. Sometimes peace requires the threat of overwhelming violence. Sometimes the only way to prevent a war is to show your enemy that they cannot win it. Veltharic began working on his report. He included every measurement, every observation, every piece of data his team had collected. He included recordings of the battles they had witnessed. He included tactical analysis showing exactly how outmatched the collective forces had been. The report's conclusion was simple and terrifying. The Galactic Collective cannot win a war against humanity. Any attempt to conquer or destroy human space will result in catastrophic losses for the collective. The only viable option is immediate diplomatic engagement and peaceful coexistence. He added a personal note at the end. I have spent 40 years studying alien species. I have analyzed their technology, their cultures, their military capabilities. Humans are unlike any species I have encountered. They are not the strongest or the fastest or the most technologically advanced, but they are the most dangerous because they understand war in a way we never have. They have made it a science. They have made it an art. And they have made it a tool they can use with precision or devastation depending on their choice. We must make peace with them, not because we want to, but because we have no other option if we wish to survive. The report was transmitted to the Collective High Council. Along with it went Captain Jiwon's data chip. Whatever message it contained, Veltharic hoped it would be enough to prevent the war that would destroy them all. Days later, Veltharic stood on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. Dr. Hyunwoo joined him, no longer wearing restraints. The collective had agreed to release him as part of the new diplomatic negotiations that were beginning. Will they listen? Veltharic asked. Will your people and mine find peace? I do not know, Hyunwoo said honestly. Peace is harder than war. It requires trust, compromise, and patience. War only requires weapons and the willingness to use them. Your Captain Jiwon said something during the battle. She said humans have fought for survival since the dawn of your species. What did she mean? Hyunwoo was quiet for a moment.